So this is the Simon XTI, just came out May 1st. It's a very easy touchscreen interface that you're able to use day to day. You got some basic functions on it. I'll just start at the top. You got the emergency button here. It's basically like a high-speed 911. You got the medical, the police, and the fire department. So you're able to click on those buttons and it'll set off a distinct siren. Depending on which button you click, and it'll also contact the monitoring station. They'll come across the panel as quickly as possible and ask you what's going on. So whenever the monitoring station comes across the panel, you need to tell them your name, the verbal passcode that you set up with the rep, and just tell them what's going on. So they'll ask for these things. The next thing is the battery. The battery typically comes low in these panels, and it takes about 24 hours for it to charge back up. That's just to optimize the battery life. The icons here just show what's going on in the system. There's the doors, the windows, the motion detectors, and other. So that would be like smoke detectors, carbon monoxide, flood sensors, freeze sensors, those kind of things. Okay, and you're able to click on any one of those if it shows an exclamation mark and see what the trouble is, and then you can go shut the door or change the batteries or whatever you need to do. There's also the thermostat control here. You can turn the temperature up and down, as well as turn the heat or AC on, and you can turn the fan so that it's on all the time or just comes on when it needs to with auto. So that's the thermostat. You'll also have a 4-day weather forecast here, just depending on what package you got. There is a 4-day weather forecast that shows the temperature and the precipitation. You also have the arm and disarm function here. It's the lock button. You can arm to stay or arm away. So arm to stay is at night. You'll arm the perimeters. That's just so that no one could come into the house without you being notified. And it just wouldn't turn the motion detectors on, so you're still able to walk inside the house just as long as you don't open any doors. So just make sure to lock the doors whenever you use this button. The arm all or arm away is when you're leaving the home. It turns on everything, the doors, the windows, the motion detectors, all the intrusion sensors, and also the life-saving sensors are on 24/7, so you don't need to worry about turning those on and off. There's also some settings at the bottom. You have your entry delay, which you're able to turn on and off. What that is a 30-second delay when you open the door to disarm the panel. So typically, you just want to leave that on when you're going away, and turn that off when you're staying home for the night. That way, if someone were to come in the front door, they wouldn't have 30 seconds to disarm the panel. The siren would go off immediately, alerting you that someone has entered the premises. There's also a silent feature, which is just silencing the arming beeps, which will be on for a minute when you arm the system. And that's just for when you're going to bed, so you won't have to listen to the panel arm. So typically when you're going to bed, you want to turn the entry delay off and the silent exit on, and then arm to stay. Okay, it beeps once, notifying you that it's in its arming stages, and it'll go through the 2 minutes of arming, and then once it's done, it'll beep once, telling you that everything's armed and do not open any doors after that time, or the siren will go off. Okay, when you get up in the morning, it'll show this screen. Just press on the lock button again and enter in your 4-digit master code. So it comes defaulted, but we changed that for you. Okay, you can also arm away. Typically just leave it with the arm settings, entry delay on, and the silent exit off. That way you can listen to it arm, and you'll know exactly when you need to be out of the house. Because as soon as it stops beeping, you need to be out of the house because everything will be turned on. Okay. And again, to disarm it when you get home, as soon as you open any of the doors, you have 30 seconds to disarm. So you come up to the panel and press on the lock button and enter in your 4-digit code. You can also control the panel using a key fob, which is you press the lock button once to arm to stay, press the lock button a second time to arm away, and then press the unlock button to disarm whatever is on. There's also a panic function on the key fob where you press both buttons at the same time for 5 seconds, it sets off the siren and also calls the police. Okay, and last thing is the settings button here. You have a bunch of options in there. You're able to view your event history, and so that shows all the recent signals that have gone to the monitoring station, which will also show up on your alarm.com. You can directly bypass the sensor when you're in an arming stage. You just have to enter in your master code, and then you're able to select which sensor you want to bypass. And then you also have panel status here. You can listen to the status of the panel, and then you can also refresh it so that you're able to listen to its current current status. The chime feature, if you turn that on, when you open a door, even when the system is off, it'll still notify you that the door is being opened. So you have a few options for that. The first is you can have it so that it says which door it is and it beeps, or you can have it be on a soft chime, which is like a doorbell, or a loud chime. So we can customize that for you. The voice volume and beep volume is both adjustable. Typically I turn down the beep volume just a little bit so it's not as harsh on the ears. The default screen, you can turn it on so that it's blank, or you can leave it so that it's on all the time on main. The blink button just allows it so that it'll turn off, and then when you want to use it you just press it and it turns on, and it'll time out when it's not in use. Okay, so typically I just leave that on. You can also recalibrate the screen if it ever gets off, or if you need to calibrate it to your specific finger touch. And that's it. The time will automatically synchronize with alarm.com, as well as any changes that you make on alarm.com or the panel will update, synchronize with each other within 5 to 10 minutes. So that's the Simon XTI.